Chris Trotter is next.
What's up, everyone? I have some handouts to hand out. Everyone can have one, unless there are too many people, then you have to share. Could I have some for the people on the rafters? Just like, yeah. Pass them back. And so, what I'm doing tonight, my good friend Corey Sloan wrote. He's 19. I met him at a gas station. He asked me to buy him alcohol. And I said, yeah. And I said, I won't even charge you, but you have to let me drink with you. And we became good friends, and he's talking to me. He got a D on this paper he wrote, this paper called MDAC Theory. And I was reading it, and I was like, Corey, you're 19, you're going to be a great diesel mechanic. This is genius. People need to read this. And so that's what you're holding in your hands today, is a abridged version of MDAC Theory. Also, if anyone can take pictures of me so I can send them to my mom, that'd be awesome. So yeah, let's get to it. If you turn to page 1, starting with the introduction. Karl Marx and Sigmund Freud, this is what Corey's working with. This is what's in his mind. You gotta get in Corey's mind if you're gonna think MDAC. They're two of the great German thinkers of the 19th century. You know, Karl Marx came up with communism, Marxism, and he wrote some books. Sigmund Freud, I know, like, when you think of Sigmund Freud, you're probably thinking classically cool. He invented psychoanalysis, among other things. And although he's widely known as a quack, his thoughts are still very important to our world today. And even though America is a capitalist country, Karl Marx's ideas of communism are still influential in Russia and other smaller countries. And while Marx proposed that the whole world revolved around capital, Freud proposed that the whole world revolved around the subconscious and wanting to have sex with your mom or your dad. And so, yeah, basically what Corey's doing here, he's synthesizing these ideas, these great thinkers of the 19th century. We're all familiar with them. And, and that's what the mommy-daddy allowance chores theory of everything is. It's a theory of everything. It's social, it's economic. It's primarily based on Freud's idea of the Oedipus complex minus the sex stuff, and Marx's idea of Marxism, but with different labels. And so here are the terms. Here's what you need to get into your head. Here's what we're learning today. Mommy, daddy, baby, allowance, chores, toys, and play. Those are the integral terms. So keep that in your head as we're going forward. And so daddy and chores, you know, and before we even get into daddy and chores, we gotta talk about baby. There's a one-to-one baby-person relationship in the MDAC theory. And so every single one of you is baby. I'm baby. Baby is a constant in any MDAC equation. And so whenever you're thinking baby, think a person, it could be an animal, you know. So just keep that in mind. And yeah, so daddy's analogous to Laius in the story of Oedipus Rex. He's the old man that forces baby to do things that he doesn't want to do. So baby gets compensated for doing actions for daddy. Baby would never do anything for daddy if he didn't get allowance. So this is the baby daddy action. By definition of doing an action for daddy, it is a chore. Daddy is incapable of requesting anything that baby would willingly do for free. Therefore, anything baby willingly does for free is not a chore. If baby likes to mine coal for fun without compensation, then he's not doing chores. If baby mines coal for money and then he finds out you're not getting paid anything to do this coal job, baby's doing chores. Therefore, baby's internality is solely responsible for his actions, being chores or not chores. And something important to note, will come up later, is that chores or allowance is not necessarily money. Allowance can be like talking to your grandma about something you don't care about because you want her to like love you still. That would be allowance. Like fitting in, not getting punished. Those are all forms of allowance. And yeah, so skipping over this next paragraph here, you know, daddy chore system. It's pretty miserable, it's all we have with an MDAC theory right now. If baby had to live in a world entirely of daddy and chores, he'd probably crawl under the kitchen sink and find some sort of beverage suitable for his predicament. But yeah, luckily for baby, there's mommy, and baby loves mommy very much. And so there's a secondary action with an MDAC that runs parallel. It's a beautiful parallel system of mommy and play. And so mommy is sweet on baby and also plays with baby. Mommy would never ask baby to do chores. Baby may help mommy with the dishes, and baby's happy to do the dishes because helping mommy with the dishes is fun. By nature of doing an action for mommy, it is play, so get that in your head. Mommy can't compensate baby. So remember daddy and chores, there's also mommy and play, there's no compensation there. You're doing it for fun. Daddy only asks baby to do an action when he has allowance. Doing dishes with daddy is never fun, therefore baby would not do it without allowance. Oftentimes people do things they enjoy by themselves for themselves. If you enjoy drawing pictures and after finishing your picture and burned it, obviously you're baby having fun. But you may be asking, I'm sure you're all asking, where's mommy in this scenario? There's baby, there's play, and then where's mommy? Well, actually, the beautiful thing about MDAC is when you're having fun by yourself, you're baby and mommy in one. Which I think is really beautiful. And, we've all been baby and daddy in one, when you're like, oh, I gotta do the dishes. It's not fun, but you get a chore, you get the allowance of clean dishes. So we now have a pretty robust system of baby, mommy, daddy, play, and chores, and allowance. There's the spiritual and the physical being fulfilled. Baby's free of the monotone world of daddy and chores thanks to the arrival of mommy and play. He has reason to live. There only remains one piece of MDAC theory left to integrate, which redeems daddy. Because you have daddy, and you're doing chores for daddy, and you're getting allowance. It's like a system of flow without an output. You're getting all this allowance. What are you spending it on? You're miserable. You hate daddy. You hate doing chores, but you're getting allowance. So what are you spending it on? You're spending it on toys. And now, toys can be anything that you possess. So think those handouts I gave you, those are toys, hopefully. Toys in a literal sense are toys. People can be toys. You can toy with people. You shouldn't, but you can. Toys are what baby spends allowance on. And so say you're playing chess with your friend's kicking your ass, and you're like, I hate this. You might be able to ask them to buy you a beer. You've been doing this chore for daddy, which is playing chess with your friend, and you get allowance, which is goodwill. They know you hate doing this. And so you're like, hey, can you grab me a beer? We can play another game. They say, sure. That's toys. Toys are the redemption of the stoic daddy who makes baby do chores, for he provides the physical world to baby while mommy nourishes the spiritual. This is kind of analogous if the experiment with the baby monkeys. There's the plush wire mommy, and then there's the plush mommy, and there's the wire mommy, and there's the plush mommy, and the baby monkey cuddles with it. That's mommy. And then the wire mommy that has milk is sort of daddy. He provides the physical world, although you don't really like him. And so now we got basically everything for MDAC. We can work in the system that we have. So it starts to get really interesting when you venture into the world of animals. Humans are uniquely equipped to do chores for daddy. Object permanence is a powerful force in turning any action into chores. The ability to imagine a reality in which baby is not performing an action creates prime conditions for the action to turn into chores. If a cow tires of grazing, it stops grazing. If it tires of laying down, it stands up. If it tires of standing still, it walks. It can't imagine not just doing what it wants. It doesn't have that object permanence that we have. It's a curse, really. And yeah, it stands to reason that unstressed animals are constantly baby in a state of play with mommy, and there's an emphasis on unstressed here. What use does an animal have for allowance when they can't spend it on toys? Animals don't really own anything. The exact moment play turns into chores, a natural animal stops whatever they're doing and starts playing again. And yeah, the distinction of natural animals is important. Simple animals are blessed with a near constant state of play. Domesticated animals may regularly do chores for daddy, as well as some intelligent, undomesticated animals. For example, a herding dog herds sheep for similar reasons to a human, but with a bias towards play. They're more natural than us. They can't really imagine getting like the wool and all that. However, the dog is less natural than the pig, and maybe doing chores for daddy. The shepherd says, "Oh, go over here, go over here." The dog's like, "All right, shit, fuck, all right, I gotta do chores." And this process of domestication is basically ingraining a daddy chore relationship into baby, which is the animal. And it applies to any domestic animal. And it's important to note that with these discussions of natural animals, that MDAC only holds true when describing an unstressed animal. Any action executed to alleviate fear is inherently chores. Admittedly, MDAC starts to break down the farther we depart from humanity. Is bacteria doing chores or playing when it feeds? The answer is fuzzy at best. The fall of man may serve as a useful example to illuminate the difference between man and animal in relation to chores. Before consuming the fruit of knowledge of good and evil, Adam and Eve lived in a perpetual state of play similar to that of an animal. And so, of course, like MDAC theory being a theory of everything, we have to address God, Any good theory of anything addresses God. And so, before consuming the fruit of knowledge, Adam and Eve could not imagine not being naked. Animals kind of exist like that. The moment they consume the fruit, they start doing chores. Like, fuck, okay, we gotta cover our bodies. Chores for the allowance of alleviating shame. We gotta hide from God, another chore, God forbids Adam and Eve from eating the fruit of knowledge and tells them that it will kill them. And then he may have been speaking symbolically, because after they eat the fruit, they just start doing chores. The rest of their life is chores. A life before chores implies a life without needing to tend to oneself. The act of feeding oneself is a chore. Living can be a chore, which is why people kill themselves. If you need proof of this, simply ask people why they keep going. They'll say, "Oh, for my family, my daughter, my cat, my goldfish," so on and so on. In a world without chores, suicide can never be considered. Think about that. Perhaps God exists in a perpetual state of baby doing chores for daddy and did not wish the same for his beloved creations. It may be argued that there's a reverse correlation between sentience, which is the Godhead, and the ability to play. Many have made this argument from experience entirely by accident. It's like, "Oh, yeah, I miss being a kid, it was so fun." It's like, yeah, you didn't know chores yet, you're just a kid. Now we all know chores. Nostalgia could be explained as a yearning for man before the fall, the state which children naturally inhabit, which we all remember. After all, who loves to do dishes with mommy as play? Baby does, of course. Man as a whole yearns for a paradise lost, a land before chores. Sadly, we have been cast out and the boats have been burned. Even worse, we proselytize our sickness onto poor animals. We've created working animals who have a drive to chores and are prone to lashing out if their chores are not granted. Under the light of MDAC theory, it's possible to see that Eve handed Adam the fruit of knowledge and he proceeded to let the dog have a bite as well. Do we have any questions about MDAC theory? I kind of went through that pretty fast. All right.